Chef Olive from Kitchen on Fire in Berkeley.
And I'm James Melgren from Cucamonga. Well, actually, I'm not from Cucamonga, but
No, he's not.
we are from
Berkeley,
California. We are in the heart of the gourmet ghetto.
And we're going to talk food, and you know what? Even if you don't have fun...
We have fun, and that's really all that matters. But we're here because we care.
Yes, we do.
Welcome to Open Kitchen. Welcome to the world premiere.
Does premiere means first?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This is the very first one. We are in the heart of the gourmet ghetto here in Berkeley, California, and we're here to talk about food. There'll be no politics on this show. We're going to stick strictly to sex and religion. I mean food.
Food and
Food and religion.
drinks.
Yeah, food and drinks. Well, those are our religions, and they come very close to sex. So,
And they come daily.
what's this show about? It's about food,
It's about
of course.
food. It's
But
mostly...
can we be more specific? We're here to answer questions about food. Now, where did these questions
yeah.
come from?
And how long has it been?
Yeah, we've been collecting these questions for the last 10 years at Kitchen on Fire, which is
Oh
a
my
cooking
God.
school here in Berkeley.
So the way we've done that is we collected from an evaluation form. At the end of the class, there is a little form that students fill up, and in there, there's a question that says, ask the chef. And basically, we've been collecting those questions for 10 years, and James and I
They're
were...
getting pretty tired of waiting.
I hope they're still alive.
Some of them are.
Most of them.
Some of the older ones might not be around. But
We
hopefully their offspring will be listening and they can get the answer.
Yeah, right. So basically, we've been collecting those questions, and James and I were looking at them, and some of them are really...
And laughing.
And laughing. We were laughing.
Considering them very seriously.
Some of them are really funny, some are stupid, some are just and cool. And regardless, we're gonna treat them because
Because we really have no life and this is what we do.
we have nothing else to do. We like it.
We like it. And the questions range from, a lot of them were of a personal nature, like why did you choose to become a chef? How did you start cooking? What's your favorite type of food? Some of them are more in terms of technique, like what are the most important techniques to learn first? What is mise en place?
What are bitter almonds? What is haricot vert?
And,
what is an enhanced chicken? I mean, there's a bunch of...
Boxers or briefs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Coke or Pepsi?
Do you smoke a little weed before you start cooking? I say, why little?
I say, why wait?
Right.
But seriously,
How do you cook for vegan food, I think was... well, vegan food is a big subject.
yeah, what's your advice for vegan
Right.
cooks?
Stop being vegan.
Stop being vegan, yeah.
No, we'll treat that.
What's the
Actually,
most
we have vegan classes that are really awesome.
What's the most important thing about sushi? Well, don't overcook it. So these are the kinds of questions. They're about technique, about ingredients, about... some of them are about health and dieting, which we're not going to get in too heavily in this show, but we do have some opinions.
Well, we have someone else who's going to take about this. We're going to be the...
Oh, fine, there's someone else?
There's someone else that's going to take the health question, which are the serious one. You don't want to take the serious one.
No.
You want to do the goofy one.
No. We try not to take ourselves too seriously, although our aim is to present real information, but we don't like to take ourselves too seriously. Why? Because
Speak for yourself.
we're fools. No, why?
Fools.
Because we
Fools.
think the kitchen should be fun. We think cooking should
Yeah.
be fun, and you shouldn't be afraid of your kitchen.
Or
You should get in
stressed.
there and have fun and cook for your family and friends and yourself,
Yeah.
and not to sweat it too much.
And you know, if you want to have fun in your kitchen, if that kitchen is stressing you out, you should invite people to cook with you.
Oh.
You know, it makes the kitchen much more...
I was going to say
fun.
change the color scheme, but
Change
you're
the
right.
color.
Inviting people in is probably
Refill.
more practical.
Refill your wine bottle.
Yes.
That helps a lot. By the way, drinking a little bit in cooking is fun.
Wine. It's been making people better cooks for 10,000 years. So I thought we should start with a question that is a good question to start the
wait,
show with.
wait.
What?
I have an idea.
Uh-oh. This is never good.
It never ends up
I
well.
thought I smelled something burning. What's your idea?
It's gone. Damn, thank you. It's all gone now. How about we introduce ourselves?
Oh, good idea.
Why should they listen to us? I mean, why? Maybe they have nothing else to do, but honestly...
Aside from our rapier-like wit and honeyed voices.
we've been in the business. I've personally been in the business for 41 years. I'm a chef instructor. I'm a co-owner of Kitchen on Fire with my business partner Lisa Miller, and I've been doing that for a long time. James and I've worked at César, the tapas place next door to Kitchen on Fire and Chez Panisse, and it's called the Gourmet Ghetto. And I'm going to let Mr. James describe the Gourmet Ghetto, just because so you can understand his English.
Yes, I know. Yeah, my English is a little hard to understand. The Gourmet Ghetto is a section of North...
Talk about yourself first.
Myself?
If you don't mind. You know, like you talk about yourself every day. Nice the chance.
Well, my name is James Melgren. I'm a food writer. I started in the food industry in retail. I was a buyer for many years at Dean & DeLuca in New York City back in the early days. And that job not only was very interesting in and of itself, but it also afforded me an opportunity to travel throughout the United States and Europe, going to trade shows and factories and markets and shops and
So
really
you're saying
learning about food.
You're saying you know food.
I'm saying that I like to travel on other people's money, is what I'm saying.
Does food know you when it sees you?
And I made the and I also worked in wholesale and importing. I imported a lot of stuff for Dean & DeLuca, and I started a cheese importing company after that. But I gradually made the segue into writing about food. And for the last 20 years or so, I've been writing for a group of trade magazines for the specialty food industry.
He's been writing stuff over and over and over.
Yeah, same sentence. I'm going to do it until I get it right. I'm very meticulous. And speaking of writing, Olive and I wrote 2 books together.
Right, published.
We wrote the César cookbook, which was called César Recipes from a Tapas Bar.
Yeah.
And we followed that up by a book that was all about the bar, about spirits and cocktails, with a very clever title, The Bar.
That was clever.
Yeah. They were brilliant books, destined to become classics.
So the point is, we have...
Oh, we have a point?
Look, I found it. I found my point. The point is, we're talking about expertise, and it's very difficult to basically say we're expert in a domain or not.
It's easy to say. Listen, we're experts in our domain.
And
See
we
how
are.
easy that was?
And we are.
Together we have hundreds of years of experience.
And we have lots of opinions.
We do have opinions.
We have lots of opinions. We have a lot of knowledge and lots of experience in the food. So we're going to answer those questions with what we think is best through our experience. And just like anybody else, it takes an expert to contradict an expert. So please bring it in.
That's right. And we're going to share that information with you as we answer these questions over the next, 20 years we're going to be
20
here?
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
So now you can start your question.
That leads me to our first question, which is also a little bit about us, and that is someone asked, how did you start cooking and how did you learn to cook? So, Olive, how did you learn to cook? Most Americans think that French people were born knowing how to cook. Is that true? Were you born with instead of a silver spoon, you were born with a wooden spoon?
I was born, I remember that very well. What type of spoon, I don't remember. I do remember that my mom and my grandmother and all my aunts, they all cook. So I learned through watching them. And then later on, when I started to work with my mommy at 15 years old, she had a restaurant in Paris. Then I started to literally work in restaurant and learn, techniques and stuff. After that, I moved to Aix-en-Provence, learned how to be a pizzaiolo. Then it was just from restaurant to restaurant, and I worked with really cool chefs. Then I came to America, and I worked at La Toc. I don't know if you remember La Toc, which still exists.
Very famous.
They still exist today.
It's still there.
In Napa.
Oh.
Ken Frank.
Oh.
That was really good. I was 20 years old.
But this was when it was in Los Angeles.
And Los Angeles, it was I think the top. It's California cuisine in the beginning.
Huh.
So we had all the stars. And I was hired there because I spoke French. So there was I didn't know anything, but I spoke French. So the owner loved me.
That's funny.
I had to learn how to make cocktails then.
Well, we've talked before how everyone thought because you could pronounce all the names of the brandies and the French wine that they assumed you were an expert on them.
They did, that's exactly.
And in fact, all it meant was that you could read.
So sometimes the book cover can be deceitful.
Don't judge a book by a cover, but you can con people into thinking you know something with a good cover.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
interesting.
that's how I started. So basically, I didn't go to school, if that's what you're asking,
Well, we all assumed you didn't go to school.
because of my English. Don't let that fool you. I have other talents. What
Well,
about you? I know you cook.
I do cook. I know how to cook. I started cooking young, but I started baking before I learned to cook. I grew up in a house where we didn't have a lot of store-bought snacks in the house. So when I came home after school, if I wanted a treat, I had to make it myself.
That's pretty cool, huh? Oh, God.
And my brother and I had the Betty Crocker for Kids cookbook.
Wow.
And that is
That's
my
amazing.
first cookbook, and I learned to make a variety of mostly desserts,
Right.
some savory foods. And then my brother and I we would occasionally get up on Sunday morning and cook breakfast for the family. We'd make bacon and eggs and pancakes and all that kind of stuff, and just went on from there. And I never took it particularly seriously until
Right.
I grew up and suddenly was living on my own, and I couldn't afford to eat out every night. I didn't want to eat junk food. I didn't want to eat fast food, so I wanted to eat the kind of food I wanted to eat. So I learned to cook.
That's great. I mean, it's great. Betty Crocker is an interesting book. It's a good starter book.
Yeah, my mother had the big serious Betty Crocker.
The
cookbook.
grown-up one.
Yeah, I think she got it as a wedding
Wow.
gift, which somebody was trying to tell her
So
something.
she got married then.
It might have been from my father.
So I'll marry you. But
My father was a good cook too. He had certain specialties that he did. I mean, they were very basic cooks. I grew up in the Midwest. It was very meat and potatoes. Sunday we usually had a pot roast. Sometimes my father
Wow.
would make his chicken and dumplings, which was
Oh,
a
nice.
wonderful, wonderful dish. And my father also made candy at Christmas time. He would
Wow.
make fudge
Wow.
and this interesting white candy called Divinity, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I don't know if there's anything. I'm sure there's something in France that's like it, but it might have been a kind of a meringue. He only did it at Christmas. He only did it once a year. He'd make a bunch of it, and
Right.
then it was gone.
Some people don't cook at all,
Yeah.
which we're gonna change that. And that's why we have this cooking school.
We're going to change it one
Kitchen on
cook at a
fire.
time.
Yeah, one cook at a time and one recipe at a time. Did you go through the whole book? Your book, Betty?
I did,
Okay.
and then
That's
later
great.
I went through. I used to cook my way through Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I didn't go entirely through it, and I only had volume 1 in those days. But I learned to do a
cool.
lot of things in that book.
Yeah, no,
That book
I mean-
taught me how to do an omelet. It taught me how to
Wow.
roast a chicken.
Omelette is a hard one. We'll talk about omelette because this is difficult for people and it's easy.
It's easy, but it's also a kind of a bench stone to
Yeah,
measure a
Skills.
person's skills. Yeah,
especially the chefs.
especially the chefs.
When they
Chickens
pretend,
don't like it
when
much,
they pretend, chicken lovers. So just family, I guess. Huh? We did it on our own, and then we
did it on
were-
our own.
we-
But I also learned it, especially when I lived in New York and got to know a lot of chefs through the business. I learned a lot about cooking from watching
Yeah.
professional chefs.
So I did that too, but at the beginning, when I didn't have any exposure to be in the kitchen. I was mostly in the dining room or bartender or what. And then what I did is, if I wanted to do something, I would completely break it down and cook each ingredient one at a time, and then I would mix it up at the end. So that's how I learned how to make ratatouille. The ratatouille, I cook everything separately.
Huh.
Until I understood what goes together and how to, and then I put it back, cook it a little more, and then done. And
Yeah,
I've done that.
interesting.
I've done that several times until I got it. Now I can cook the ratatouille like my mom, because every time I was asking her for the recipe over the phone, it's very vague. It's like a handful of that, medium heat, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So there's no recipe, so you have to figure it out. And that's how you learn with your family, you know.
Yeah.
There's no
Well,
books.
I'm sure like so many of those provincial recipes in France, if you ask 10 people from Provence for their recipe for ratatouille,
You get
10
20 you get 20
yeah,
recipes.
You get 20 different recipes. Yeah.
That question was answered.
The answers? Yes.
The answer is yes,
Yes.
and we all agree, which is going to be very rare.
I like mine more medium rare.
I like mine answered right now. Good.
Very good.
This is a good question.
We're off to a running start.
Let's ask that question again.
Here's another question, and this one's also, kind of a basic question.
Is it food related?
It is cooking related, so yes. Several people asked this, and they asked it this way: what are the three most
This
important?
way.
What are the three most important techniques to learn first? And that's
Okay.
an interesting question because I think people love to quantify things. They want to know.
They want to put a number on it, like there's 3.
Is there 3? Is there 6? Or, how do I start?
Well,
So, what do you think about that? What are
I
there
think-
there 3 techniques to learn first, or obviously there's
more than that, or less. It depends. So basically,
but you have to start somewhere.
you have to start somewhere. So if I would start somewhere, that would be I would do knife skill as a first understanding. You have to cut your vegetables or your stuff properly so everything cooks evenly. Then I would go into understand how to just saute stuff on the pan, saute, stir fry. And after that, you need to, if you're interested in more, then you need to have a kind of, you need to train yourself. Let me back up here. When you learn how to cook, beep, beep. When you learn how to cook, you have to experiment a lot. You need a little bit of techniques. Knife skill is important. Then saute and stir fry. And after that, you can go into all the other one. Like roasting, braising, frying. This is what comes later. Once you monitor a little bit, then you can go in the next,
Now,
realm, I would say.
Now, what do you think about? You can buy almost anything pre-prepared. You can buy carrots that are chopped up. You can buy minced garlic and onion, and of course, you can go to a good butcher and have the butcher cut up your meat for you, cut the chicken into pieces.
And it's great. It's very helpful. There's some store that sell all the stuff cut. The cut vegetable, they will last few days. It's not an issue. And if you really, really don't have time, then you can do that. They're not going to be as healthy, obviously, because you cut through the cell walls that are exposed to oxygen and light. They'll damage. It's not a big deal. Again, I'm just saying this is not as awesome as when you freshly cut them. And one important thing I don't like about cut vegetables is you never know when they cut them. So that's my problem. It's not the cut vegetables itself. It's the fact that basically cutting vegetables is not that difficult.
Right.
And you just, it takes 5 to 10 minutes to make your prep. But again, if it makes you cook.
And I think if time's an issue and that makes it easier for you to come home and throw dinner together, then that's fine. I still think you should make an effort to learn some basic knife skills because someday you're going to find yourself at a farmer's market or somewhere and you're not going to have access to pre-cut vegetables. And I would also add...
right. And also that cut vegetables don't make me come home early.
Right.
Beer does.
I would also say that if you're going to buy pre-cut vegetables like that, you should buy them from a store that you feel pretty sure that they have a big turnover, that they sell a lot of that stuff, because then they're going to be fresher.
You mean a busy store?
Yeah, someplace like Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, or if you have a local market.
I'm not a big Trader Joe person, but yeah.
But
for produce.
But they sell a lot of that stuff, so I think they turn it over quickly. Where it gets cut, that's another issue.
Right,
is it 1,000 miles away? I don't know. But if you have a local market that you feel does a volume in that kind of stuff, then that's fine.
Yes.
But it's not an excuse for not learning how to use a knife.
Yeah, it's so easy,
And you're also paying a premium for that. You're basically paying for someone to cut your vegetables. So
some people don't care about the money. It's not the money issue, but the truth is, it's going to be healthier. Those veggies that you cut right when you process them are going to be healthier, and they're going to be they hold better flavor because they're not cut.
Also, it gives you the option of going to a farmer's market or
this
places
is
where
really
you can
cool.
get really good organic vegetables. And
Well,
so
that
much
brings
better
the issue that a lot of my students, they say they hate shopping.
They hate shopping.
Yeah. So this is, in this case, then you buy your vegetable cut. That's okay. It's much better than eating canned food or processed food, regardless. So yes, please go for it.
Well, there's also the CSAs.
This is really, really good.
Where
the CIA
box of
FBI.
a box of vegetables you pick it up each week, and so you don't have to. You just and it's sort of a surprise. You open it up and.
Actually, you know what? You should start doing that. And if you have questions on how to deal with those veggies, you can email us and Actually, we'll talk about CSA box at some point to see how to,
Yeah.
because a lot of time people say, "Oh my God, there's stuff in there. I don't know what that is."
Yeah, my daughter, her one of her best friends has a farm where they do a CSA, and the box comes with, of course, a variety of vegetables and fruits, but also they have their little newsletter inside, and it talks about what's gone on at the farm that week that's
yeah.
of importance. It
That's
talks
great.
about what's in season, talks about the vegetables a little bit, and then she always has 2 or 3 recipes for some of the major ingredients in the box. So it's really
Okay, cool,
really
cool.
nice, really nice.
That's great.
And
Yeah, that's great actually.
so it's
So-
fun, and it's fun to open it up, and we.
Oh,
'cause
this
we,
is, no,
we-
I love. I mean, this is really cool, and plus it's completely fresh and it's beautiful stuff.
It's beautiful
oh my
stuff,
God.
and it's picked that morning and delivered to a spot, and you go and pick up the box, and it's a
So
lot
what
of
was
fun.
what was the question? You have 2 questions in there. That's gonna be confusing.
Well, the question
that's-
was, what are the 3 most important techniques to learn first? And I think,
We're gonna stick to 2, which is knife skill and basic, little cooking with a pan.
yeah, and I think the most important thing is to just get into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And
If you find the kitchen,
yeah, it's and one of the first things that I started cooking a lot when I first went to New York was, I mean, besides like roasting a chicken or something, was I cooked a lot of pasta.
yeah,
And
yeah, that's easy.
pasta's
Pasta,
so
rice,
easy,
yeah.
but
I
it
know.
also involves saute techniques,
Right.
because almost everything that I put on the pasta, I had
Yeah,
to
but
saute
the problem
first.
is that's what people do. They just cook pasta and they're done.
Right.
I would. So yes. So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
And then you ask me about cut vegetables. Sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
But
you should still
what the
learn how
hell?
to use a knife.
Yeah.
If nothing else, it's a good way to defend yourself.
James, do you have a question we can make fun of people?
Why do we need a question to do that? I do have another question that I
Okay.
think is a good question
mean
for
a serious
for our
question?
opening episode, and it's an important question. And the question is, what is mise en place, and why is it important? So
There must be some type of French.
yeah. So should we move on?
Yeah.
No, you're French. What does mise en place mean?
Mise en place means literally put in place.
Aha.
So it's basically you cut all your stuff, portion all your ingredients, spices, salt, pepper. I mean, salt and pepper you don't. But the rest, everything is there. But at least the salt and pepper is right here. All your fats for cooking, oil, butter, whatever, it's all ready to go. Everything is portioned up. Clean your station, and then you get all the knives away, and then you can start cooking. That's mise en place.
It's a concept that comes from the restaurant
Yeah.
world, where if you're a line cook and you're going to
Right.
be cooking a lot of different dishes, you have all of the ingredients that you're going to need to cook any of these dishes all prepared in the form that you're going to need them in, either diced or
Right.
sliced or whatever. And that's all in front of you. So when the orders come in,
Yeah.
we're doing the duck now. Okay, I've got everything I need to do this recipe. In a home kitchen, of course, you're not cooking to order. Well, you may be if you have kids.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of getting everything prepped in advance so that when you start cooking,
Right.
you don't have to stop to do that.
So in a restaurant, often the prep person is not the chef, or the
Right.
chef is not the prepper. So what I mean is, it could be the chef prepping or someone else, but usually it's not the same person that prep and cook.
Right.
So the prep is done hours before, 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on the restaurant. Then the next shift, the next staff comes, and they have to have the prep really well ready, because you don't take your knife out unless you're going to cook some cooked meat, but you don't cut vegetables. You don't cut
Right.
raw food when the service is on.
Right. You're not dicing onions during service.
No. Unless the prep was poorly done and it's
Yeah.
missing, and then
In which
people
case,
get pissed.
somebody's probably going to be in trouble the next day. Yeah, and it depends on the size of the restaurant too.
Yeah,
Exactly who I remember in my old pal Mario Batali, in his first restaurant that he owned on his own, Poe it was called. It was
Oh, yeah,
across
I
the
remember
street
that.
from
Oh,
my
God.
apartment, and he was it. He had a dishwasher who helped out with some things, but otherwise Mario did everything. So he would come in the morning. He would do all his own
See,
prep.
yeah.
And he cooked every dish that came out of the kitchen.
Yeah, that's what
made all
happens
the
when you
desserts.
start. when you start by yourself, when you start a restaurant, you are usually with 1 or 2 or 3 people, and that's it.
Yeah, he
And
had
you
a
do
partner,
everything.
Steve, who ran the front of the house,
Right.
and Mario was in the kitchen, and it was about a 45 seat restaurant on Cornelia
That's
Street.
how I started, yeah.
Fabulous little place, and the food was amazing. But of course, in a bigger restaurant where you've got a bigger staff and a bigger kitchen, then you typically have a prep staff that comes in and does all that.
Right. So that's mise for you. Mise is called mise en place, it's called mise. That's a restaurant term, and this is what you need to do. And this is the first class at Kitchen on Fire. There's a 12 weeks series, basic series. And the first class is knife skill mise en place. This is really, really important. So if you get that in your little head,
All
then
right.
you're good to go.
All right.
So the answer is?
The answer is yes.
So the answer is yes.
So let's move on.
Okay, so Jim, can you do just the tip?
I
Please.
beg your pardon. Now, we're going to offer some tips in every episode, and I have a tip for you.
I have a tip for you.
It's Midnight Racer in the third. No, that's a different tip. This is
It's a different color.
Here's a tip about cooking chilies. When I was learning to cook in New York, I loved cooking with chilies, and I still do, and I love adding heat to food. And there's such a myriad variety
Yeah.
of chilies out there to cook with.
Right.
But I learned very early on that you got to be careful when you're cooking chilies, because what happens
You mean
is,
cutting?
yeah, when you're cutting them up and doing prep and moving them around, and then suddenly you forget and you rub your eye, or you
Or you go to the bathroom,
yeah, suddenly you're in a lot of pain.
then you sing a lot.
So, you know, in the restaurant business, when the person who's doing all the prep for the chilies, cutting up a lot of chilies, they wear rubber gloves, and then they just throw them away so that they don't, you know, get it on their
Or
face or their eyes.
at least they throw it away before they rub their eyes.
Yes.
And
So that's my tip.
good tip.
And just
And I would say just
cut
wash-
your chilies. Do that in advance, and then go wash your hands if you're not using rubber gloves.
So you need to wash your hand with soap, because capsaicin, the compound that the spicy stuff, is a fat soluble.
Ah.
So water won't do it.
So thin people doesn't hurt them.
So thin people, no, yes. So the fat is that's why you drink milk when you have or milk or fat or some type of fat, because
Right.
you can also drink sugar to stop this intense heat.
Yeah. Water is not
No.
a good idea.
No,
It might feel good at the time, but as soon as you're done drinking,
actually doesn't.
yeah, and then all it does really is spread the heat throughout your mouth, and
Yeah.
then you're really on fire.
Like you're real fire.
But you know, as
That's a good one.
As Lawrence of Arabia once said, you just have to learn to love the pain.
You mean Laurence Olivier?
Yeah, that's right.
And that guy.
So, how about you? You got a
How
tip?
about you? Yeah,
You got any advice?
I got a tip. Never look straight in the sun.
Now you tell me.
Damn. My tip is how to store vegetables. So let's say you get some vegetable from the farmer's market. You come home. If you do not need your veggies the same day, then don't wash them right away. Put them in your fridge. You have to separate the bananas, the apples from everything else. So basically the apples and the bananas. The apples I can keep in the fridge. The bananas do not go in the fridge.
No.
The tomatoes do not go in the fridge. Everything else you can go in the fridge, and make sure basically if you put your apples, they are in a bag, because they will ripen everything else around. And banana does that too. So if you want to ripen something,
Bananas exude a gas
just like apples,
that
actually,
will quickly
Methane.
ripen other fruits around it. So if you leave them in a bowl with a bunch of other fruits, everything's going to super ripen and go bad.
Well, that's how you ripen stuff. Sometimes you put a banana in a paper bag with other stuff in there that you need
Yeah.
to ripen, like apples or avocados, let's say.
Avocados, yeah.
And you put a banana in there on an apple, and it's going to ripen that thing pretty fast.
So is it a salad when it comes out of the bag?
It's like, it's weird if you leave it too long.
Also, here's something I learned recently, that you should always, if you're storing carrots and you buy them at the farmer's market and they have those beautiful greens attached, you should remove those,
Well, always.
because it's sucking out of the carrot. The carrots continue to feed those greens if they're attached.
Right.
So you lose flavor in the carrots.
So you have to look at the direction where the water goes.
Right.
So if you look at carrots, radish, beets,
Yeah.
all those guys, you need to remove the greens immediately, like
Yeah.
tear it down.
Yeah.
But you look at tomatoes, you see the water feeds.
feeds
so,
them.
So you can leave that.
Right.
So you have to look at where the water is going.
Yeah.
And yes, you have to remove those things immediately because the root is going to keep feeding the plants and it's going to dry out.
Yeah.
So yes, good point.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
I do know a thing
Yeah.
or two. But don't throw
Stop.
those beet greens away because those are good to cook. They are.
They
tasty.
are. We can talk about it another time. My mom never used them, and there's reason for that. And it's basically because there's tons of oxalic acid. But we'll go over this little details
Okay.
another time.
All right.
But that was a good tip. Thank you. Good point, actually, for the greens. This is important.
Yeah.
Remember that.
So that's it.
So that's
for
it for this week.
That's our world premiere.
Oh my God.
And we hope you'll
I'm
join
so-
us again. We thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, till next week, you know what? Get in the kitchen, cook,
Yeah.
have fun. Don't be afraid of your kitchen.
Have fun in there.